Welcome to the Beyond 3D podcast, where we explore all things 3D and the important role that 3D data plays throughout the manufacturing process, driving decisions throughout a product's lifecycle. Here, we talk with industry analysts, business owners, developers, and industry influencers, and hear real stories that you can relate to and learn from, and know which trends and technologies apply to your business. So join us as we go beyond 3D.
Glad I was able to introduce everybody in advance by LinkedIn so that you knew who everyone was, but we'll just quickly go around for the benefit of the recording, really also, but for each other in case you didn't have a chance to check it out. I guess I'll start with myself. Everybody here knows me so far. Ron Fritz, one of the co-founders and CEO of TechSoft 3D, either currently providing technology to everybody here or soon to be, I think. I hope. How about you, Pat?
Yeah, hi, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Patricia Hume, Pat, CEO of Canvas GFX. I joined Canvas I was just writing an investor letter, so I was doing the math. It's 20 months since I joined, and we took a 30-year-old company and did a venture pivot. And I'm having a blast. New to manufacturing, so it's been a real interesting learning curve to really understand what's happening in the manufacturing space, and then the challenges of selling into manufacturing. But hey, it's great. And Ron, you've been a great partner, and we love your tech. So thank you for helping make our product, even better than it was before we joined you.
Yeah, thanks. Well, plugs are not necessary for getting invited, but they never hurt. And Patricia, I was glad that you were able to join us, because I think that what you just mentioned about not having a long history in manufacturing, but having history elsewhere should bring a lot of useful insights. How about you, Michael?
Hi, everybody. So my name is Michael Bogomolny. I'm the co-founder and CTO at Paramatters. Paramatters is a startup company which not 30 years old, it's about 4.5 years old. So it was founded by experts from the field of topology optimization. What we do is basically generative design for manufacturing. Additive, but not only. So we do also beyond generative design, the processing for additive manufacturing as well. And so Ron mentioned maybe future customers of your technology. So let's see where it goes.
And Michael, am I right that one of your investors, you were part of Exponential Works, or one of your investors is Avi?
That's correct.
Former head of 3D systems. Yeah.
So Avi Reichenthal, who the former CEO, I think he had been the CEO of 3D System for 13 years. After stepping down from the role of CEO of 3D Systems, he became an active investor in several startups in the field of additive manufacturing and also software for additive manufacturing. So he's also one of my co-founders and a seed investor. Yeah.
Great. How about you, Magnus?
Hi, everyone. I am the CEO and co-founder of Modelon, which is a Swedish company in the segment of systems modeling and simulation solutions. So we're originally a spin-off from the university in Lund. We have grown with our own profits organically over a period of 15 years. And some years ago, we made a decision to launch a cloud-based platform for systems modeling and simulation, and thereby sort of pioneering our space with that type of product, aiming for a software as a service business model on top of that. So we launched this in the middle of the pandemic last year. It's called Modelon Impact, and it builds on a technology, very sophisticated, complete technology stack with a simulation engine and model libraries and so on, that we have developed over a period of 15 years. And which is now sort of the basis for a next phase in our growth journey. We have been self-financed until a couple of years ago, when to realize this new opportunity and vision, we decided to bring in capital from the financial markets, and we're actually right now heading towards an IPO.
Great, congrats.
Thank you.
Great. How about you, Tyler?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Tyler Barnes, Vice President of Partner Engagement at TechSoft. Essentially, that's business development and marketing. You've probably met people on my team. I've been at TechSoft for about 6 years, somewhere between 6 and 7 years. Before that, I was, like you, a partner of TechSoft 3D. I licensed technology at Autodesk, and I was at Autodesk for quite some time working on mechanical design product line.
Indeed. So, as I mentioned in the emails, the topic is really about what areas we think will get innovation, where we'll see the most innovation post-pandemic. The conversation doesn't need to be constrained to things that are innovation directly in response to COVID, but I think that's an interesting place to start anyway, because the world's been changed for some period of time, maybe for an extended period of time, and we've all seen some things that have worked and not worked, and surely some areas are going to get more investment than others. People are going to see opportunity to move things forward. So rather than pick on someone and put them on the spot, anybody have initial thoughts based on my email to say, here's the first thing I want to say when we get on this call?
Yeah, I'm chatty, Ron, as you know. So I've been thinking about it.
I knew I could count on you.
You betcha. So guys, one of the things that's happening in our business, but it's really the industry, not our business, it's the industry that's driving it. We have customers like Chevron. I use them as an example because as we bring our new cloud product to market, the idea is to be able to provide and empower anyone to be able to create and then consume really precise visual content. Okay, so we take all the 3D models and the 2D and whatnot, and then we create visualization. And the only reason I bring it up is Chevron, we talked to Chevron at great length about what they call their connected worker strategy. And Ron was kind when he said, you're new to manufacturing, but you've been around a while, and it's very true. And when I heard connected worker strategy, I come out of IBM, I come out of SAP, I come out of Avaya Technology. I've been around for actually 44 years in the software space. So, I heard connected worker and I thought, oh, collaboration, boy, we've been there, done that. What I found interesting is that's not what they meant at all, okay? And it is about post 3D and COVID. What Chevron is doing is they're using Microsoft HoloLens, and they're putting the lens on the guys in the field, and they're providing them the capability through augmented or mixed reality, as Satya says, mixed reality. In this case, it's AR. Yeah, the ability to fix the oil rigs in the field. They stated that if they, prior to having the HoloLens capability, they would fly people, SMEs, subject matter experts, into the field, costing them a minimum of $100,000 per guy or gal to get them out there. And that indeed this concept that is being deployed through the connected worker strategy and the HoloLens has, moved beyond 3D as we know it, right, into spatial. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I just think it's really interesting that is certainly, it's been around a while, but I see the trend picking up. Second part of the sentence, and I know it was a long sentence. So I reached out to Microsoft because that's what I do. And I said, hey, dudes, where are you getting the data to drive this thing? It's a device. It's like this thing. Like, where are you getting it? And how precise is it? And how much clarity are you giving these guys out in the field with respect to using some new device that's coming in from some spatial data set? So there's a huge opportunity there, guys. I guess that's what I'm seeing. Our ability for us in particular to port our platform to Unity and to have a traditional way of creating and visualizing data. Yeah. And now the new way, having both capabilities. the traditional way will feed VR, the new way will feed AR. And our math, the algorithms we have in our product will facilitate much more clarity and precision and industrial level clarity needed for this kind of beyond 3D thinking that Chevron is using. And by the way, we've found it now across multiple of our existing customers, this concept of the connected user with the augmented reality or mixed reality. So I see that coming, and I see it coming faster than I would have anticipated, but everything in Industry 4.0 is moving fairly quickly now, right? It's been around a while. Now it's finally taking hold. So that's just my thought process.
That's interesting. The mixed reality, like that's been around a while. It's getting better all the time. There's these barriers to it really fully getting adopted, the usability, getting the data in, authoring the environments. But certainly one of the barriers had been people saying, is this really critical? Or how critical is this? Or how close is this to the real thing? And COVID has forced people to say, I guess it's more critical than we thought. And then once it reaches criticality, somehow people find a way to solve the other things.
I always found that like the biggest bottleneck to what you're describing, Pat, was the authoring of whether it's animations or exploded views or whatever it is. And there was no algorithmic way or AI driven way to do that. It was all really manual. So if someone's creating an instruction manual, they're doing it, taking vector art out of SolidWorks or something. They're not creating animations. So how are you guys, like, when you're saying you've seen picking up, how are they solving the authoring challenge for that?
That's a great question, Tyler, because that is why I called them. I said, okay, guys, so yeah, you got this great, cool device. Where are you getting where are you getting the data? Which to me is the documentation, the images, the animation, the stuff you need to ensure the guy has what he needs to do his job. Yeah. Microsoft won't admit it, and I don't blame them because they're Microsoft, but they're struggling. Yeah. They hinted they were struggling. And then they did something that I've worked with them for 30 years. They did something that's indicative without admitting struggling. They've had 5 or 6 meetings with us. They don't waste their time if they have any. They don't waste right? So they're taking a look under the covers at what we're doing. And I think you guys probably all saw, they just won the $22.8 billion ISVR deal with the United States Department of Defense to put the HoloLens inside the helmets of the deployed field guys in the United States military. And we pitched to them as well. And they said, holy moly, you guys, if you can get this level of precision into this silly device, and they didn't say silly because they love it, but if you can get this level of precision into the device. So we've been prototyping hot desks and prototyping hotspots on the hot desk using the device. We've done some pretty cool stuff. So fingers, by the way, we need your animation desperately, right?
Okay.
So we're excited to get the animation.
I know they're building the UI out on that right now.
Yeah, we need that, guys. Hurry up.
Got it. It's really cool. I couldn't agree more. It's a huge opportunity. That maintenance repair operation space has always been rife with inefficiency, and no one's really cracked the code on that. That's exciting.
Thank you.
Before we kind of go into other areas that we might see, let's stick with this mixed reality area for a while. If Michael or Magnus have anything to add or refute or disagree with, or
I think it's very interesting. We're coming from a slightly different angle, the system simulation, which is more about describing the behavior of some kind of complex device or system by means of exploiting the actual physics embedded in this thing. So it's animation visualization is a means to visualize these physical phenomena. We use animation for these purposes, but the actual value of what we offer is in the models that can reproduce or predict performance and behavior. And there we have this industry buzz on digital twins, where predictive maintenance. I understand this is sort of what you're talking about largely. the type of models that are used in these digital twins are precisely the type of models that we provide with our solutions. And I think we're seeing a lot of initiatives, we're seeing a lot of demonstrators, we're seeing some proof of concept by the really big players. You're mentioning Microsoft, we're seeing others, PTC, Ansys, all the guys are teaming up with also companies like SAP, where you connect to the economic values and directly of moving these kind of maintenance processes into the digital space. So we're really, really thrilled about all the opportunity that we see in this space. Although from where we sit, it's still in many cases on the proof of concept level. So what we're looking at that as a very, very interesting segment to move towards, and then also in connection with this, look at the system simulation and 3D has been traditionally two fairly separate worlds, and I think there's a huge value in doing the connection more tight, both for the visual parts, but actually also for if you broaden 3D into 3D analysis connected with system, there is tremendous value in exploring that. And again, I think we're still in many ways working in silos. So
when you say model, like in the Modelon world, when you say the model, we're not talking about the 3D model that you can spin around on the screen. You're talking about the model of an entire complex system that might have metal parts, electrical wiring.
Yeah. So model, when we talk about a model, it's basically a computer model that contains the physical equations that governs the behavior of something. And what you produce there is numbers. You get temperatures, velocities, positions, and things like that, which are, of course, very appropriate to visualize using 3D visual models, if you like.
Gotcha.
It's a challenge. I would say it's a big challenge in our world to visualize what's going on in an effective way, and that requires connection with 3D.
So if I can jump in, actually it was interesting. While discussion was interesting to see that I'm coming a little bit from different field of connected to additive manufacturing, design for additive manufacturing, but actually speaking about field inspection using virtual reality, and as an idea, probably finding broken pieces which need to be quickly replaced in field operation, quickly doing fast design, fast manufacturing and replacement. This is what you mentioned Industry 4.0, that is all about, how things can be connected. And this is actually where defense military applications are looking at fast replacement of an effective replacement of part in field environment. And so connecting, having tools which you will be able to design quickly. Actually, this is where we are playing. Like having your design space, taking physics into account to generate valid geometry which can be additively manufactured and replaced, and actually the accuracy of the geometry that needs to be replaced is extremely important. So those things actually comes together nicely. So while discussion, it came to my mind that it can be really interesting when connecting all these tools together. And actually another point you mentioned also cloud tools. We also operate on the cloud, and extremely important to have ability to access cloud computing to make these type of designs and simulation and analysis fast. Even field operation, you just need connectivity to the internet, and you have your design which in field operation can be manufactured today. I know that in some defense applications they have field labs when they can print parts.
Right, close to where they need them. Well, since we're talking about additive, one of the big things that happened immediately was disruptions of supply chains, and then this talk about moving manufacturing closer to home or closer to where you need it. It would seem to create a really great environment for the growth of additive manufacturing, and to get people to actually force people to try it and realize what it can do, where its limits are. But yet we haven't really seen, like, the stock prices of the big 3D printer companies haven't really improved, although Velo 3D's valuation when they went public was really high. But how do you explain that, Michael? Like, why do you think on one hand the conditions seem so ripe, on the other hand the companies don't seem to be making a lot, the printer companies aren't making a lot of money?
Right. So it's interesting question. Sometimes the market behavior, investors' behavior, and actual companies' behavior not aligned. This is exactly what's happening here. But it was, in the beginning of COVID, it was very clear that, the supply chain, especially when many factories in China were shut down for some time, many parts were not supplied, and basically many manufacturing lines were stopped. And many companies, at least big OEMs, they understood that they need at least some fraction of manufacturing to be local. Not all of them, but at least part of it. And if you want local manufacturing with low investment, so additive, this is where it shines. So being close to additive, I can tell you that in recent few years, the quality, it was many discussions about disrupting supply chain, but additive didn't really, how to exactly to define it, didn't really launch and have been scaled due to several factors. First, speed, cost, material quality. But in the last few years, it has been significantly improved. The processes, the control over the processes and the materials, and it's getting to state where it's very close to become valid, like, controlled manufacturing process. And you could see in last year, even bigger aerospace companies, they qualified some parts. It's just the beginning, but it's gonna scale more. So ability to produce parts even in smaller volumes is extremely important. So investors saw first the disruption of supply chain, and additive can close this gap. So as a future, I believe they invest for the future. And many of venture-backed 3D printing companies like Desktop Metal and others, they got huge valuations, a little bit disproportional to their revenues. But this is where we're this is where it is right now. And so overall, but we also, as a company, we also see after COVID, for instance, automotive industry was significantly affected. And most of our customers coming from automotive. I'm talking about BMW, Ford, Volkswagen, and so on. So while actually I can tell you that while in Europe situation is not that good, in the US, a lot of money was injected in the market. So I think American companies more active, I would say, the space. And we see more and more understanding that, okay, if we are going for additive, it's not that I take the part which was manufactured by milling or injection molding, and I print exactly the same one using 3D printing. It's completely different state of mind. You have to understand, if I have additive, I can consolidate parts, I can reduce assemblies, I can use different materials maybe to change the design, and you need tools to realize the potential of additive. And that's where traditional CAD software tools were designed for traditional manufacturing, and in many cases they don't realize the full potential of additive. And this is where a company like mine is coming to the game. We are able to effectively design for additive if typical design process to create geometry, simulate, iterate can take weeks, using our solution, it can take tens of minutes up to a few hours, and you can have model validated by finite element analysis. You can do a 3D model which is ready for manufacturing right away. So while talking about all these supply chains, the design process, which is very expensive in terms of human hours, plus realizing that the potential of additive and shortening all the supply chain, this is where it all comes together.
Yeah, a few people have mentioned kind of industry 4.0, and we hear people sometimes talk about like lights out manufacturing, really be able to have factories run with few or no people. It seems like the motivation to do that is even higher now when people worry about, is there going to be another pandemic where I'm going to have my workforce go home, and how can I do this with a fewer number of people spread out? What are people seeing? What things are moving forward fastest in the industry 4.0 area of getting to the point that really factories can run without people there? Pat, earlier you were talking about the data and how do you get the data in, and IoT and edge computing are all important areas. But what are people seeing there?
Magnus made a really good point, and I'm gonna, it ties to what you're saying, Ron. Magnus said, we're so siloed, right? The industry has so many disparate initiatives. Yeah, we say, oh, PLM, it's one workflow. That's nonsense. It isn't, because you have MES and you have ERP and you have, you have supply chain management. You have a ton of different technologies competing, right, for that sort of being the master and the rest being the slave. Yeah. And then you've got the whole digital twin and the product data backbone, and you've got additive, and you've got mixed reality, and you have, all this crazy edge and robotics and AI. Yeah. And I think the challenge, if there is another pandemic and factories have to run people-less, yeah, it's going to take a while, because the market is so highly fragmented with so many people coming in at every entry point possible, yeah, with the best of breed for what they do. No disrespect to Magnus, Michael, I don't know how broad your solutions are, but they tend to solve a problem, not the problem, right? A problem, yeah. And I just think that we are challenged as technologists, and I think the manufacturing verticals are challenged as people facing a problem, because we're not working together well enough, right? We're overlapping slightly, and instead of taking advantage of, like, I listen to Magnus and Michael and I think, oh my gosh, I'd love to integrate with what they're doing. We could really add value to these guys, yeah? I don't think there's enough of that. I think there's a ton of acquisition going on because the big boys have the money and they're buying whatever, and then they're bolting stuff on. And I don't think they're thinking as clearly as they should be with respect to the pain in the industry. And so getting to that personless factory, I think it's going to take a while, a long while.
I more than agree with you. If I'm so sorry to jump, more than agree with you. As a startup, we cannot solve all the problems, right? We solve some particular pain. We don't have the resources, but I can tell you that we completely understand that in new industry 4.0, let's look at the simple manufacturing. Before, companies, they buy material, they do design, and then they go to manufacturing. Today, it's all interconnected. So we as a partner, even as a startup, we collaborate with big material companies, like multi-billion-dollar material companies, and 3D printing machines providers, integrating solutions together to be completely aligned. So to close at least this gap, you talk about bigger picture, and that's why the many of M&A is happening with all big companies, and this is what they plan to do. And I would love to do, but they don't have the resources. But I completely agree with you. Yeah.
Magnus, you were going to add something there as well?
Yeah, yes. I think I really also like your, Pat, what you say, competing to become the masters and not the slaves. So this is something we have observed from our position for a long time. And if you look at the big players, they are building their sort of humongous platforms that includes all functionality, and it's simply, I would say, probably very scary for even large companies to say, well, we're going to put all our eggs in your basket. We use your platform for everything we do, and you can't rely on any provider to offer the best individual solutions for all pieces in that. So we have already, since our start 15 years ago, put a lot of effort into building all our software on open standards, open APIs, and split up in sort of modules that are sort of reusable and that we can pull together in our products, but also we're doing some technology licensing for other software vendors, and we're also helping industry companies to implement digital workflows for system simulation, and we can use our software as building blocks and very effectively deliver either something that's sort of off the shelf, a point solution if you like, but also something that's open to integrate with other systems. So we're seeing our vision, which does not seem to be shared by everyone, but we believe in it very strongly, is that if we have, this is our scope of what we're good at, and we'll just make sure to deliver that in a form which can be connected into more sort of a network of different solutions that is adapted for a certain customer needs and so on, where we can support and enable workflows, data flows, and all this, which simply is not possible with these monolithic big things, monsters. So I think this is really interesting. We strongly believe that the importance of open standards, open APIs, and so on will continue to just increase. We see a huge pull.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. It's an interesting kind of balancing challenge, because one common theme here is that all of us are relatively small companies compared to the big ones we're talking about. And so, of course, we believe that everything should interoperate and should have open APIs. And then the big guys, whose names we won't name, they want to be what you're describing, Pat, is like they want to be that full solution. And then the closer they get to that, the more closed they get, because they want to keep those clients really beholden to them. I wonder what market dynamic would need to change for that cycle to break.
I think it's time for a SPAC.
What's that? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Financially, I think it's time for a SPAC. I think we need to, if I had the wherewithal, this is an amazing market time to identify best of breed. That is, to Magnus's point, open, published APIs, no proprietary. I'm with you, Magnus. I'm a big proponent of that world as well. Not because I'm a small company. I just think it makes sense, because if we're here to serve our customers, that's what our customers need. Closing these systems, right, is greedy. Opening the systems makes everybody a winner. Yeah. And so I'm a big proponent of that, but I believe wholeheartedly, and I've had lots of conversations with, having been in the industry for as long as I have, I talk to a lot of private equity, a lot of banks, just more for curiosity than anything. I'm trying to figure this out. And I really think the time will come shortly where somebody's going to go do their homework and identify the best of breed across the workflows that have to happen, And if you're the guy or gal that has the courage and the initiative and the backing to do it, you could build the coolest freaking business on the planet, from people like Magnus's company, your company, Ron, Michael's company. I would hope Canvas, we're just weird. We create the documents. We get the documents so that people can read what's going on quickly and additive, and marry 3D models with IoT and all those kinds of things. Yeah. But I really think there's an opportunity to create a massive disruption, right? A massive disruption to the big guys. But it takes time, and it takes people with capital. There's plenty of dry powder. It's just getting the right combination, right? A SPAC would do it, but you need to find the big anchor business, and then you got to find the money.
If I'm
Tyler,
okay.
yeah, go ahead, Michael.
Sorry. Well, so we talked about workflows. So let's say design to manufacturing for workflows in many companies. They have been built for decades within each company. They selected the right tools to build the workflow. So to penetrate into traditional workflow for big OEMs, it's nearly impossible. But what additive is opening, basically most of them. I don't know any big OEM who's not having any additive team and trying to build workflow around additive. So the new manufacturing technologies open these opportunities. And we see that that's exactly what we try to do, right? So each big company, we in contact, they evaluate. So they look, of course, they first evaluate the big guys, and then they look at the smaller startups. They see better quality from smaller startups, and then they realize. So this is where you're talking about disruption. I believe with the new manufacturing technology, it is possible. With Industry 4.0, it is possible, definitely. And yeah, let's see how it goes.
Tyler, when you were running things with Autodesk Inventor, you must have seen this from a couple angles. Like, one, trying to get Inventor into places that maybe are kind of stuck with systems that they're already using, even if they don't love them, on one hand. But then also places where Inventor was already being used. There was a lot of workflow built around traditional manufacturing, and something like, generative design, even Autodesk's offering for generative design, has trouble breaking in there because the processes were built around there. What were you? I know I asked you two questions in one, just to penalize you for agreeing to join at the last second. But what were you seeing?
One of the things that's interesting, if you're just looking at mechanical CAD, for years and years, all of the opportunity any of us had was moving AutoCAD users to 3D mechanical design. And at some point, 5 or 6 years ago, the first world was 90% penetrated or saturated in mechanical design. So the only growth was coming from organic growth. But in tools like Inventor, Solid Edge, SolidWorks, no CAD environment is homogeneous. And so you have some of these big manufacturing companies that are standardized on something like CATIA or Pro, where if we could make Inventor open enough that it could be used side by side with some of those applications, we could take market share out from PTC or Siemens, just because it was good for the bottom line. You only need 10% of your seats to have that kind of functionality, and so those were the kinds of triggers that would get us to look at making our solution more open.
Mm-hmm. All right, looks like we're getting close to the end of the time, so we're going to go round robin final thoughts on anything else that you were really wanting to add to this conversation about innovation, but that we didn't get to it through the ebb and flow of the conversation. Pat, to reward you for going first, we'll let you have the final word. Magnus, any additional final thoughts or things that you're seeing that we didn't get to talk about yet today?
I feel we just got started, so we could. There's a lot more to talk about for sure. So I don't know exactly how to summarize this, but I think that when we're talking about how we as smaller companies can build strong solutions based on open standard, based on sort of more integration. I think that's a very, very interesting idea to explore further. I think there are, as to Pat's point, there are enormous opportunities lying in this. But I also don't have the answer. What is the next step to get there?
Well, you might have just given us a topic for the next future sessions of like what needs to be integrated and why, and trying to, because TechSoft is in a unique position to introduce all the people who could do that and possibly be part of that solution as well.
We're very happy to contribute.
Michael, any last thoughts from you?
Yeah, in pandemic, I'm not an expert in pharmaceutics, but I saw that, as I understood, typical vaccine development should take between 3 to 5 years. And it was developed within a year, right? And I was vaccinated already, so I don't know about you. So we see the tremendous progress which was done in that area. And I've heard from people from pharmaceutics saying that they technological science research progress they have done in last year, it's like almost like a decade of research, and projecting the same to industry 4.0 for manufacturing, design to manufacturing. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be done in traditional manufacturing with the new design tools, new manufacturing tools. That's maybe just the beginning, and we will see tremendous progress in that area.
How about you, Tyler? Anything we didn't get to?
No, but I really enjoyed hearing from all three of your perspectives. At my time at Autodesk, I worked on a Modelica-based systems engineering tool. I worked on generative design applications. I worked on TechPubs applications. So it's fun to see innovation happening. And for me, it was just really interesting to hear what you're doing. I think all three of those areas are rife for innovation, and a lot of what we're seeing in terms of the new partners we're onboarding that tracks with what we're seeing. We're seeing generative design, not just general generative design, but generative design in shipbuilding. We continue to see the value in systems modeling. TechPubs has needed innovation for years and years and years, and there's tons of opportunities there. So I appreciated the conversation.
All right, Patricia, as promised, you get the last word.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank everybody. It was super helpful, super interesting for me. I'm always learning. I think, Michael, you made a point, and I loved it, and that is, the large OEMs are slow to move their dinosaurs. And the only thing I'll leave us with is the dinosaurs died. Took a while, but it was the evolution of the planet that caused them to die. Technology is moving faster than the evolution of our planet, and the dinosaurs will die if they don't adapt. And the adaptability comes through innovation, and that's what we're all here to do. So I believe wholeheartedly that as innovators, we can be catalyst toward innovative changes in the OEMs eventually. But if not, you go to the innovators, and that's how we'll make our money. And if we could come together more effectively, we could impact it faster. So that's all I have to say.
The absolute perfect summary sentences. Excellent.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for the time, and very interesting conversation, as I knew it would be. Talk to you all again soon, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Cheers. Take care.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you for joining us on the Beyond 3D podcast, hosted by TechSoft 3D. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and leave us a review, or subscribe on SoundCloud. To listen to past episodes or learn more about TechSoft 3D, visit www.techsoft3d.com/blog. Send us comments and suggestions at info@techsoft3d.com. Thanks again for listening, and we hope you'll join us again on the next episode of Beyond 3D.